Hi everyone. This presentation is entitled Evaluation of Student Satisfaction Using a Mission-Oriented Approach, and it brings to you an approach that you would probably find useful to think about for internal evaluation, self-assessment and continual improvement in higher education, and showcases a case study of SIM University Singapore. This presentation has been prepared for the Australasian Higher Education Evaluation Forum 2012 and it's presented by me, Nachamma Sockalingam. I am a lecturer at Teaching and Learning Centre, SIM University Singapore. This presentation can be split into two sections. The first section focuses on the idea behind the mission-oriented approach, and the second section focuses on the case study from Singapore. The main idea in this paper is that measurement of student satisfaction on university services should be measured against the university's mission and vision rather than a generic set of measurements on teaching and learning to provide meaningful information on and for internal processes. And we know that universities use student evaluation questionnaires to measure student satisfaction because they want to provide quality education. Providing quality education is certainly the topmost priority for higher educational institutions across the globe. And they utilize evaluation questionnaires to gather feedback on various services such as teaching, content material, library, study guide, the computer and technical support departments, and so on to identify areas of strength and areas that need improvement so as to enhance the overall quality of educational services. So the student evaluations are typically used for two common purposes. One is to improve the teaching and learning, the quality of teaching and learning. The other is to account to internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. So the question then is, what should be the basis of the evaluation? Generally, a lot of universities, they use existing questionnaires that is already developed, and many of these questionnaires tend to be based on generic teaching principles, such as the NSSE questionnaire, which uses such teaching principles as well. While the original intent of these principles is to provide guideline on effective teaching, is useful and it's helpful to improve teaching and learning, these guidelines were not intended to evaluate teaching and learning. That is something to take note of. And the question is also then, is demonstration of good teaching practices equivalent to good quality? The answer is yes and no, and it depends on what we define as quality and quality of what. The argument in this paper is that the quality should be tied to the university mission. The mission clearly defines the purpose of the university and indicates what they want to serve and accomplish, and that is what we should be measuring against. Different universities have different purposes or missions, and some are research oriented, some want to serve the adult learners like in the case of SIM University, and some want to focus on industry linkages and real life project based learning. So if we are using a generic type of questionnaire, it is not going to be able to cover the various aspects of the mission or the intended educational goals. So if it is not on generic teaching skills, then should it be on specific teaching skills, or should it be discipline oriented, or should it be based on what type of teaching mode? Can it be based on whether the subject is science or English, because science subjects tend to be practice oriented or lab oriented? Should we have questionnaires that measure the educational quality just for the lab so that we know enough details about their educational experience in the lab? Should it be based on the teaching mode, whether if it is for e-learning or blended learning or conventional learning? Students are probably going to be experiencing different things. So should we design individual questionnaires? Well, it is probably going to be meaningful and useful to get detailed information. But the practicality of the matter is that it's going to be too many questionnaires. And the data is not going to be comparable. So we have at one end we have two generic and at the other end we have two specific. and this is still not resolving the problem that we have. And we have to take note that university contexts are diverse. As I mentioned, some universities are research based, some cater to adult learners, and some cater to industry linkages. And this is so because there are too many universities now. There are too many universities competing for students, and universities are attempting to differentiate themselves. So they have all sort of interdisciplinary and different subjects and different curriculum and different teaching pedagogy. And therefore, we can expect that the teaching and learning and the student experience in each of these individual institutions is likely to be different in different contexts. And therefore, using a common questionnaire is not going to be that meaningful. Hence, it's important to measure the student's learning experience in a context-specific manner. So, the proposition is to measure the success of teaching and learning with reference to what the individual university has set out to, but use a generic enough questionnaire that is applicable across discipline and faculty within that university so that you can still compare and have some sort of standardization. Therefore, the proposition is to consider measuring on the basis of university's mission and vision. The mission and vision would direct the entire university's functioning, and it determines what the university intends to provide. And it is going to be common across the university. So, therefore, you could utilize the questionnaire that you have developed across the various discipline and faculty. And this is not something that is very new. Some of the universities are already doing this. For instance, Curtin University also utilizes an institution-specific questionnaire called Evaluate. And the reason that they cited is that the most compelling need was to adopt an instrument which allowed Curtin to measure its achievement of its stated goals in teaching and learning. So there are many advantages to mission-oriented approach. Of course, there are disadvantages as in all cases. The advantages are that it measures good practices, teaching practices, but that is related to the vision and mission of the university. It provides details that are specific to that university, and it probably allows comparison if some of the universities share the mission. Many universities are research focused. So if you want to compare a research focused university, you should be comparing apple to apple. So you should be comparing a research oriented university with another research oriented university. But it may not allow comparison with all universities. But of course, people compare for various reasons. And in this case, the proposition is that if student evaluation instruments are used for self-improvement, if student evaluation are used for internal processes and continual improvement, then probably a mission-oriented approach is going to be helpful. And to suggest how it can be done, I'm going to be using the example of SIM University, where I come from.